Hey, peace, world, what's good? Thanks for pressing play on another Pay Me No Mind, another episode of Morning Wood. I'm going to seriously try to keep this one, I'm on the clock. I'm going to seriously try to keep this one short. I want to say something very important, though. I know people ain't listen to this stuff for like a minute, 35 seconds, 40 seconds. I get it. But boxing people, there's a lot of messaging out here about empowerment and getting involved. I say getting off the sidelines, being active, etc. However you want to frame it. One thing that I've been saying on the podcast and on more so on the podcast, uh, we can only complain for so long before you have to do something, or you should do something. You can only bark for so long, and cry wolf so much before it becomes you just another dude talking. He's always like that. At some point in time, what they say, you gotta shit or get off the pot. And if you're interested, every weekend it's a lot of us complaining about. There's a lot of complaining about judging, and decisions in the sport of boxing. It hasn't been so in maybe 2 or 3 weeks, but it's throughout the year. It happens quite a bit, and people are all up in fans, are all up in arms Sunday morning and through Sunday, blah blah blah. And then we get to Monday, and nobody goes out and does a damn thing about it, or looks to do anything about it. So I have some information right now. If you would like to email me, paymenomindShow@gmail.com. If you would like to email me, I will send you the information for you to look into how to become a professional, how to be able and be certified to judge professional boxing and or MMA. It's happening October 18th through the 20th. That's a Friday, Monday. You don't take my word for nothing. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's activities and classes and examinations, I think at least Saturday and Sunday. There's also recertifications going on. You just missed the deadline to pay $85. From this point on, it's a minimum of $100. But this is from the I guess it's the North Carolina Boxing Authority. But the certification is the Association of Boxing Commissions, Judges and Referees Certification Course. I think you'll be able to judge. You'll be able to judge fights and referee them. It's some test scores. It's some thresholds that you have to hit to pass. But you will be able to judge and referee in all states. Look, I've sat next to judge and talked to these guys. I've sat and talked to judges in 4 different states right around me: Indiana, Michigan, Ohio, and then Kentucky. I've looked at the judges in the bigger cities, and it's always the same type. And it's a lot of times it's older guys. I'm just saying it may be some fighters that need you. We're talking about years away from replacing Weisfeld and Moretti, Adelaide, some of the others. But that's the thing. You got to start somewhere to get down the road to do the bigger stuff. You can't just sit here and talk for 5 years. But these club shows, you got to cut your teeth. You know what I mean? So, like I said, October 18th through the 20th, if you email me, paymenomindShow@gmail.com, I'll send you the information. They have a hotel on there. I think it's $120 a night is what it's going for right now. October 18th through the 20th. And you can be on your way to making a difference and being involved and get off the sideline and quit just being a keyboard warrior. Jack Reese is involved. He's the one. He'll be teaching the referee stuff, the referee portion. Bill Clancy is another guy. I've seen him on some of the cards. He's another referee that's involved. It's legit, you know. And like I said, you're good in any state. Your name will go into some database or on some website where you can go. The money is there even for these club shows. You know, that's a budget that promoters have to. That's a part of the budget for promoters. And like I said, man, I've been to plenty of fights where I sat next to the judge and I asked him what he was looking at, what he was looking for, what his criteria, and getting a gauge of what his how current he was with boxing. And it's some fighters out here that could use your youthfulness in terms of your mind and your youthfulness in being a new set of eyes on the sport. I think, you know, and I'm sitting here now, like somebody sent it to me and I'm like, I ain't never wanted to be no judge. But like I said, there is an opportunity to make some money. I mean, you know, you go judge some of these shows with these club shows with 8, 10 fights on them, 12 fights on them. You know, it's a minimum amount of money per fight. So, you know, your Saturday night, you can make a couple $100. Just like judging high school basketball or, you know, men's adult basketball or whatever, and you work your way into the high school stuff. It's same process. But you could one day be sitting ringside, you know, for, you know, a big time fight with real people. I mean, with real, you know, big names. So I wanted to throw that out there. Let me wrap this up. You know, I mentioned the whole thing about AJ, about Anthony Joshua, and how I think some of his talking has kind of shown a rattled man, a rattled fighter. And I thought he was giving away some of any advantage he could hope to have with kind of being more silent, regardless of what he says. And it's unfortunate that he's having the public beef with Lennox Lewis, an all-time great. But regardless of what he says, an individual that I would like to hear from is his trainer, McCracken. I would like to hear his assessment of what happened. I know, of course, they can't give away the game plan going into, you know, and what the major changes are going into it. But I would and it's a shame because McCracken, especially in the States, is not a figure like Emmanuel Stewart, so we don't get to hear, you know, we don't hear much from him. He's just not somebody that people are shoving mics in front of. But I would like to hear, as you know, AJ has decided to stick with him and was like, it's above question to even ask or expect me to move on. And he said something about loyalty. But I would like to hear some words from McCracken to even see, to gauge if he's a guy that can even lead him. Does he even have a shot, you know, of leading him, you know, to victory and getting him together for the rematch, if it ever happens. Lastly, so that's what I would really like to hear something from McCracken somewhere, somehow. And then lastly, the Bud Crawford interview on the Joe Rogan podcast. Hey, I'm envious, man. You know, and that's what I was just talking about with the judging and refereeing. You know, it's a process, man. And just because you start your channel or you start your you know, your media thing, your journey, or just because you get involved with this, it doesn't mean that, you know, in 2, 3 years, in 4 years or whatever, it doesn't mean it. Just because you're excited and you're motivated and you're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about this thing, it doesn't mean that you're going to get to speak to everybody that you want to speak to or in the settings and environments that you would like to speak to them in. you got to build your name and build your reputation, and how that happens and unfolds the universe works it out in many ways. So the complaining that he doesn't talk to black media in particular, I'm not gonna say that's all of Bud's fault. Your reputation speaks for itself. You know how you approach the game and do your thing. You know, you may push some people away. You just your style, your subject matter, you may push some people away. Regardless of how big you are. But I've been saying this on the podcast too, that for the last couple years, that Bud, while I don't think he's great on the mic and into talking much, I thought the podcast was the perfect format to have a good discussion from Bud. And Joe Rogan, being a comedian, being an MMA guy, and being more of a fan, and the way that he approached it, the way that he framed all of his questions, and working in some humor. And I mean, he is who he is for a reason. He's where he's at for a reason. And like I said, man, I'm envious, man. Some of the stuff that he got into were along. I don't want to give my game away, but yeah. Anyway, some of the takeaways, I'll go into two quick ones. What I really wanted to hear was the training and the professionalism. You know, I thought it was very dope. There's a lot of things said about Bud and what people, you know, try to tear him down because of different aspects about him professionally. But for him to say that he owned a house in Colorado, I like to hear that he's investing in his craft and investing in his career, and he's serious about training and being prepared. And I like that. I think that's phenomenal. You know, that you have it, that you've invested. He got into talking about his cars, you know, his toys and everything. I think he's lives pretty modestly, in my opinion. But like I said, man, to talk about his training and what he does to get prepared, how he approaches, you know, staying in shape throughout the year, and I appreciated hearing that professionalism. You also got there were a couple of segments where you kind of hear what his fight, where his mentality is, his confidence and belief in himself, and how he approaches this from a mental aspect. And then lastly, I'm definitely gonna get out of here. You know, he did make the comment about, I don't need Spence, he needs me. I think, and I've said this before on the podcast, I think a lot of these guys, these top guys, these pound for pound guys, I think a lot of these guys, and it's because of the silos that the different ecosystems that are in boxing with the promoters and the networks and those affiliations. I think a lot of these guys have sketchy resumes, or it's right there, but it's a fight or two away from really being cemented. And I think, although, you know, Bud, he mentioned that I'm a Hall of Famer without Errol Spence Jr., you probably are, because of the undisputed title, you know, the undisputed run that he had to becoming an undisputed title holder. So you probably are. And in these two division, I believe, 3 division now. 2 or 3. But it's certain challenges that we need to see you face. And I think Bud against Spence, for me, will be that checks that box for me. You know, we very, it ain't even quietly, but we see the same story over and over in boxing. Black guy, Mexican style. Slick black fighter, slick style versus Mexican style. Mix in a Puerto Rican cat or a Colombian, maybe an Asian here and there. Maybe throw in some weight classes, maybe it's some Eastern Euro guys, etc., etc. But very rarely do we see slick fighter versus slick fighter, or uncoated black fighter versus black fighter. Just to see those same attributes and whatnot clash together. We don't see that a whole lot. And You know, he fought Lundy, who was on one leg, supposedly. But yeah, I need to see Spence. I do need Spence for Bud to be to kind of be what he's billed as being. Who knows if it ever happens? It's kind of a side note on a piece that I posted on Round by Round Boxing last week that did very well with reads and page views and whatnot. So yeah, check that out, the Joe Rogan podcast. You know, I don't really like supporting nobody else's or anybody else's content, and that's not to hate on other people, man. But you know, you interact with other people and then they never holler back at you, and so I've been conditioned to kind of just stick to my own stuff or worry, you know, focus more on what I'm trying to put out than really trying to keep up on what other people are doing. So it's not about hating other individuals and whatnot. But like I said, I've made comments, and this is on smaller channels and whatnot, or just interacting with people on social media a little bit. I just really don't support nobody else. Don't really care about what nobody else is doing. So anyway, to break down and check out a dude like Rogan, that's dope, you know, and it's gonna get Bud in front of different ears that normally, you know, he normally wouldn't be in front of. So look, let me get on out of here. The most important thing, man, was the first 5 minutes where I was talking about that training, the referee and judging. Again, hit me up and I'll send you the information. Pay me no mind show at gmail.com. 1.